Welcome back to the Restore Hyper Wellness podcast. This is the Brownsboro edition. You know what that means? Not corporate. Woo! So this is just us talking about things we like doing on a day-to-day basis and trying to inform you guys of the glories of Restore Hyper Wellness. So I have Henry here.
Hello.
Hey, Henry.
How's it going?
So Henry, actually, he hired me. Actually, he didn't directly hired me, but he was one of the guys I had to talk to bring me on this place.
Yes, sir.
So was my father in a sense.
I'm sorry?
Almost my father in a sense. He brought me into this
world. Fatherly is not something I would exactly say. It's more of like a brother type relationship, more off the cuff than fatherly type situation, but we like to have a good time.
It's a good time. And I think that's what Restore's about, is coming in and you feel great when you leave. Mm-hmm. You leave better than you came in. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things we always love doing. With you, what are some of the services that you do that you always feel better after doing?
So my go-to services are NAD. NAD I've been doing for 3 years. Hyperbaric chamber. And I like to get IVs here and there, but those are my 3 go-tos. NAD is my favorite. I've been doing NAD for 3 years. NAD is such a fun one because everyone goes on a little bit of a different journey with NAD.
Oh yeah.
Everyone has, different cellular problems that NAD is going to help with. And for me, what it ended up helping with is, I was tired all the time. I did competitive CrossFit for 5 years, and I wore out my adrenals. I wore them out real good. And so that, combined with the fact that I was consuming disgusting amounts of caffeine, just equated to, not a lot of sleep, but also not a lot of energy. And NAD really kind of helped get me back on track as far as decreasing the amount of caffeine that I was consuming, increasing the amount of sleep I was getting, and really just increasing the amount of cellular energy. It's a little bit different than like consuming a caffeine beverage and like you feel that jolt of energy. It's a little bit different than that. It's more of like a sustained energy where you don't hit 1 o'clock and feel like, wow, I could really use a nap.
Yeah. Well, because I noticed when I started taking NAD that a lot of people need 3-4 cups of coffee a day, which is crazy. I have like 1 cup of cold brew or like a small little Alani drink. Mm-hmm. I'm off my rocker, and it needs to be 12 hours before I go to bed, or I will be awake zooming like a cat.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Honestly, in our society now, like caffeine is everywhere. People consume. I have nieces that are, or I guess they're not nieces, they're sister-in-laws. They're 12. They feel like nieces, so yeah. It counts. They're 12 and they consume like 3 energy drinks in a day, and I'm like, you're like 90 pounds. You should maybe lay off.
You're like, you know how many milligrams of caffeine that is?
Yeah.
That's 600.
600.
And I'm 230,
depending on which drink.
And I want to die after 600. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, for me, that was the biggest thing, was just the energy. I would say the other thing, and this is more so fun for those of us who like to lift heavy things, but I at the time was taking a break from lifting heavy things because I was trying to get my adrenal fatigue under control. But I took NAD, I did my loading dose. A loading dose is essentially where you just bolus your body. Like you give it as much NAD as we can give it in a short amount of time. So I got my loading dose and I finished it. A couple of days later, I was like, we're gonna squat, and we're gonna max out our squat just for the heck of it. Mm-hmm. And I PR'd my squat by 20 pounds, which for those of you who understand lifting and heavy things, a 20-pound PR on a squat well into your lifting journey, for lack of a better term, is bananas. That's a crazy PR.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is, so like me and you both TRT enthusiasts, we love hormone optimization. And NAD with TRT, like the services that Restore has
100%.
Paired with that, it's like a sundae. It's like a candy after. It's a sweet treat.
Exactly.
After a meal.
Exactly.
And you can feel better, you perform better in your metrics or whatever. So you're familiar with this. What are some of the side effects people on TRT can, expect?
I think a big thing with TRT is like the acne or the depending on how you convert to estrogen, you can be like super emotional on TRT, or you can notice some certain physical side effects as far as things not behaving as the way that they should, and then even over long term, TRT can have longer term impacts on your organs and things like that. One of the things that NAD is great for is it can help you restrict your dosing of TRT and HRT depending on, male or female, but it can help you restrict the dosing there so that you can make it a more long-term process. I think a lot of people, when they think of TRT or HRT, they think of like, I just want to get jacked. And that's really not the point. For some people, it is the point. For me, it's not the point. The point is I want to feel my best. So, think of how you felt at your physical peak, whether that is 25, 30, whatever that age is for you. I want to extend that part of my life for as long as possible. So HRT, NAD, red light therapy, hyperbaric chamber, all of those things are levers that I can pull to feel my best, look my best for as long as physically possible.
Yeah.
So,
well, and when I started my TRT journey, because similar to most guys, I was like young, and I'm like, why am I like 400 right now? I should be like at least 8. Like, come on. I went through all the blood work process because I was trying to figure out what's wrong with me, and I was like, maybe I'm just not cooking the right way. So I got on TRT, and the first thing that happened is blood pressure was cooking. I was like cooking like 160/90, which a little toasty.
Yeah. Little toasty.
And then like a little bit of acne and all the other stuff. And I had like that big peak when I first started, and that was before I started doing consistent IV drips and NAD. That was before I started doing all that because I just, I just didn't know it was available. I wasn't familiarized with it. And then the second I started doing consistent IV drips, because I talked with you guys, I was like, hey, I don't want to take like a beta blocker or something. Like, how do I get blood pressure normal?
Yeah. We don't want to take medications to layer on more medications, And then, you get a pill box the size of China by the time you're 30.
Yeah.
No
and I still have a pill box the size of China, but it's not for that now. It's just for other fun stuff.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, but the great thing is that when I started being consistent with, what I talked to you guys about, like literally blood pressure now is like 110/70.
Yeah.
Perfect. And like all the other side effects are great. Lowered my TRT dose because I get more out of the NAD performance wise, because, my goal is to get as jacked as possible.
Good for you.
If I don't, I don't want to die young.
No, nobody wants to die
that. You want to be jacked for a long time.
Exactly.
So I can keep on lifting.
Physical prime for as long as possible.
That's the goal here. And that's the cool thing I've noticed about using NAD, about doing the consistent IV drips, is that I can just get more out of it.
100%.
So it's cheaper. It's less injections. It's like everything's just better. And the cool thing is it applies to girls too. This isn't just a guy thing.
Nope.
Because girls have to be on HRT eventually. And menopause is super fun. And because my mom's going through it, and she's always had me questions now.
Well, and even when it comes to HRT or human optimization, I think one of the things, I think people want to have this idea in their heads that, if I eat relatively healthy and I stay relatively active, then I'm fine. I don't need all this other stuff, all these other interventions, for lack of a better term. And in many ways, that's kind of a faulty premise. We live in a totally different world as far as what we interface with, what kind of environmental factors that we have on our lives, what kind of stressors we have on our lives, all of those things. Think about all the things that we experience in modern life that nobody experienced before, whether it's phones, technology, podcasting. There's very little escape. And then you can even, get down a wormhole of, all the things that we use to build buildings with, and the lack of sunlight that we get now, and all of the different environmental factors that used to be a positive benefit for us that we don't get anymore. And you add all those things up, and it's, we're not evolved to live in the world that we currently live in. And so these interventions, NAD is really in many ways, it's a way to help your body respond better to stress. And we are more stressed in our lives now than we've ever been before. So we deplete our NAD stores in a way that we've never done before. HRT, it used, you're talking, it used to be unheard of for, a guy like me at age 31, a guy like you at age,
25.
22, 25, whatever. Well, young. It used to be unheard of for guys our age to be low on something on a critical hormone like testosterone. That's more common than ever. Again, because of all of the environmental stress factors that we have. It's not that we're all of a sudden humans have declined as a species. We just have a lot more draining us of all of our essential nutrients and hormones and everything like that than we ever have before. So NAD is a really, really good way to build your body's resiliency to handling all those things. So it's less of an intervention and more of we're going to give our body more of what it needs to do all the processes that it needs to do to handle all the stress that you give it on a day-to-day basis, whether that's working out, whether that's looking at your phone for 10 hours a day, like most of us do.
Yeah.
All of those different things that stress our brains out, that stress our bodies out.
Yeah. Well, and you gotta be cautious because it's really easy to wake up in the morning, go on your phone. And then now it's like, you used to wake up and it's like, it was private. It's like, it's just you and your spouse. It's just you. That is it. Like there's nothing else. There's not like maybe you're a bird or something. But now you go on social media and now it's you and Jeremy, you and Mary, like all these other people, and it's all that like flooding you all at once.
Yep.
So like the stimulus you were saying of today's life is so high, and with that stimulus comes more processing power. Also food's cheaper, like high caloric food for cheaper prices.
Yep.
So there's so many things that, like you said, are conducive to not being optimal.
Absolutely.
Now people didn't live as long back then. I think diseases were different, though. I'm not super great with history, but disease rates were different. But if someone got sick, they just die. But yeah, so it's kind of like there's back and forth to it.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have antibiotics, so you got the flu, and there was a decent sized death rate with the flu, which for frame of reference, our death rate with the flu right now is like 0.00, couple other zeros, 1%. Like it's very low.
Yeah,
but you had people dying of other things, but you didn't have people. If you survived into your 50s, 60s, most men in their 50s or 60s, 50s, you were really peaking as far as your testosterone levels traditionally, because you didn't have all of these inputs. So
they were still taking care of like their farm. Like most guys that age were like still probably looked pretty good. Like they had to do a lot.
It was a lot of work.
You had to look at Greek statues. Those guys were however old they were, and they look good.
Yeah.
Like if I look like that Greek statue, I'd be happy.
Eat real food, do physical labor. Yeah.
Yeah, all day.
In the sun.
I know.
It's good for you.
And that's the nice thing. Restore, like, if you could do everything and still, have the life you want to live, great. I don't know who does that. Like, you want to make money and still do everything, but like be on the grass all the time. I'm like, okay, that's all you, dog. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's nice to be able to get red light in, to do the IV drips, to get this done. So I can all right, I can have the benefits of more of the primal lifestyles that they used to have.
Absolutely.
And I can still have benefits now of like the high pace modern society, capitalism, and like live the life I want to live.
Absolutely. And that's really what Restore allows you to do, is you can get a lot of the benefits of those things, red light, sunlight, NAD is cellular energy. All of those things, you can get all of those benefits and still, maintain the modern jobs that we have to. Ultimately we have to live in, we live in the world that we live in. We can wish it away as much as we want to, if you want to. A lot of us don't. There's a lot of benefits that come along with modern life, but we, in a way, we can have our cake and eat it too with Restore.
Yeah. And not all situations you can't always have your cake and eat it too, but in this one, you can. Now, what's the trade-off? It's a little bit of time. It's a little pricey, but also if people did the math of like, if you just didn't go out and drink on the weekends, by the way,
go look at your last credit card bill for going out on a Friday.
Dude, you have like 5 drinks, you're at like 120, and then you get a tip, and then you have the Uber because you're too drunk to drive, and you're like, okay, maybe this health stuff isn't that expensive. Like, maybe it's not that bad. You multiply that times 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I always wonder what it would look like if you took all the money that you would spend on alcohol in a year and just didn't do anything with it and then like looked at how much money you had at the end? Like every time you wanted to buy a drink, you're like, no, I'm going to take that $5 and I'm going to, well, I guess it's $10 now, but
Oh my gosh.
if not more.
When I went to Nashville, I don't drink anymore, but it was my sister's 21st and I was like, I'm going to be a supportive brother. Shouldn't have been a terrible idea. Terrible idea. It was 15. I bought a round of shots for everybody. $15 a shot.
Yep.
I got my bill and I was like, it was $120 for the first round of drinks for the night. And I was like, what?
I'm done. It's time to go back to the hotel. I'm going to bed.
I was like, I've had a good night, guys. How about you? I'm like, this is done.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah.
But basically it's like it's like when people say eating healthy is too expensive. I'm like, okay, if you prioritize it, if this was something you value.
Yeah. And you know, I always want to be careful because it's, you know, what I found is budgets are real. The economy and where you fit in there and the price of things, it's very real. But it does become about what are the things that are super, super important to you as far as investment goes. And, you know, for me, my health has been like a real like I prioritize that, you know, after my, you know, bills, the first thing that I, you know, budget money for is groceries and then things that are going to benefit my health. Those are the first two things that I budget for. Even before like things like clothes and, you know, other shoes and things like that, because the good part about investing in your health is the more you invest in your health, the better you feel, the more productive you are, the better you are at work, the quicker you get a promotion, the quicker you make more money, and then we can just restart that cycle. Investing in your health can be a real investment in your financial future in a lot of ways. So obviously, you know, we want to be mindful about how we spend our money. And I think that Restore, you know, we really try and find a number of different therapies where, you know, maybe NAD is not at the price point for you, but maybe hyperbaric chamber is, or maybe, you know, regular red light therapy is at a price point that works for you, or maybe getting an IV drip once a month with the nutrients that your body needs based off of some of the genetic markers that you have. Maybe that's something that falls within a budget that works for you. We have people that spend the range in what people spend with us is massive. We have people that spend, you know, $150 a month with us. We have people that spend $2,000 a month with us. And it really is that big of a range. And we have everywhere in between. Yeah.
And this is a good quote that I love is that you ask any millionaire right now, they would give up all of their money they've ever made in their entire life to be the age you are right now, to just be 10, 15 years younger.
Yep.
So, you know, everyone doesn't really care about their health until their health's an issue. Yep. That's all they care about.
Yep.
So if you just care about it now, do a little bit of preventative work instead of reactionary work, then you get to this really cool point of like, oh, you know, I can, you know, do the work now, lay a good foundation, put the investment in, and then later on, I get to feel better, look better, and maybe I'm not regretting as much of being like,
and maybe you're not doing these like, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000
stem cells.
You're
trying to overcorrect
massive.
now.
Yeah. Where to the point where you're like, you know, you're trying to undo 20 years of horrible lifestyle that just, and you feel like garbage. You know, maybe invest a couple $1,000s now.
That's what you see celebrities doing now too.
Yeah. 100%.
Like everyone is doing NAD and their mom, and they're all talking about it. Like I literally was doing a house tour yesterday, and this guy was like, yeah, I was watching the Land Grab or Land Show, whatever it was. And he was like, the guy was talking about this NAD drip. First thing he does in the morning is do his NAD. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty great.
Checks out.
I was like, I do it. The funny thing is he's actually a member at Restore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was like, I signed up, haven't been back since. And I'm like, dude,
what are you doing with your life? Come on
and see us.
Yeah, we got spots for you.
Yeah, I was like, I'll get you some NAD. Come on in, dog. I got you. It was so funny when we were talking, but you'll never know how many people, because so many people know about these therapies, but they just don't act on it.
100%. I mean, honestly, that's a big part of, you know, you're in a lot of our planning meetings and all of that. And this is something that we consistently harp on as an organization is not just, how do we find customers? Because, obviously every business wants customers, but once we have customers, it's really about how do you match them up with the things that are going to make the biggest impact in their life, and how are we going to get them to use that? Like, I have no interest in somebody signing up at Restore and, paying money every month to be at their house and do nothing. What we want as an organization is we want customers who we can make a difference in their life. Like, we're not here to just collect money. We want to make sure, we want you to feel better. We want you to feel the impact, and everything that we do as a business and the way we structure our whole organization is how can we help you help yourself? How can we, you're coming to us and you're saying, hey, like, I'm worried that I'm going to feel like this in 10 years, or, hey, I'm 40 years old and I'm starting to feel real bad. Our whole goal is, let's figure out what works for you. We got a number of different things. There's something different that works for everybody. We're going to find what works for you, and then we're going to hammer that until you feel back to your 25-year-old self.
Mm-hmm. And the cool thing is, like, at least the staff in Brownsboro, like, we all do the services religiously.
Yes.
Like, and we love it. Because, and I mean, I was a member before I even started working there. That's how much I loved it. And I love telling customers that, because, like, I never want them to feel like I'm trying to be pushy or try to tell anything. I'm like, guys, I may spend more on this than you do, and I work here. So you might be surprised, actually.
You may be surprised. Yeah. No. And ironically enough, we've hired a number of former customers at multiple locations, because, ultimately for us, like, again, we want people that are excited about what we're doing. We want people who are excited about the idea of NAD and IVs, and we want people who have felt the difference. It makes a huge difference. And, then we're not educating from a place, we don't have this little booklet that we read and it says NAD has these 3 benefits, blah, blah, blah. We want to be like, hey, I did NAD. This is how it changed my life. This is how it could help change yours. That is a profound difference. People don't want to hear the list of benefits. People want to hear, can this change my life in a positive way?
And I mean, that's what matters, is like, what's, like you said earlier, what's going to move the needle? And we're not going to get you something that's not going to do anything for you.
No.
Like, if you're someone like me, I'm not going to say, hey, go sit in the sauna for 2 hours. You don't have time because you're busy all the time. You might just get more bang for your buck if you just do, one NAD drip or this drip, get everything in. Especially for shots, because, like, I can only get stabbed so many times before there's just no more room. There's no more room to stick a needle. And the good thing is, IVs are so nice because you can get like 20 ingredients
in one stick.
And it doesn't hurt, guys. By the way, everyone thinks that like, the needle stays in you. It's a little catheter. Like,
oh yeah, there's no needle. It's just like this. It's this little piece of,
rubber or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a nurse. I'm not a nurse, so I'm going to refrain from commenting on what exactly a catheter is. However, it's not. Yeah, it does not hurt. It also, and this is something that's interesting. So if anybody has been stuck by a nurse in another setting, a lot of nurses in hospital settings and they don't spend all day every day sticking people. Our nurses stick people between 15 and 25 times a day.
Their job, their
literal sole purpose in life is to stick you without it hurting. So, I've been stuck by a number of our nurses. I go all over the place, and I've been stuck a number of times. And our nurses are very, very good at it. It's not. I've had medical procedures where I've been stuck, and I'm like, listen. Do you need some training on this? I can help you out. I know some people. This is not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, especially for guys like me and you, like, we're not hard sticks.
No.
There are pipes. Yeah. You just need to land on the pipe.
Yes.
It's
But even if you're a hard stick, we've had people come into our locations who are like, I'd really like an IV, but I'm a really hard stick. Every time I go to the hospital, they have to use the ultrasound, and then I'll watch a nurse just like boop right in there, and it's easy as pie.
And that makes a big difference, because we both know what fishing is the worst thing God ever created on this earth. The worst thing. No one enjoys fishing.
Be careful. Be careful. Some people do enjoy fishing, Cameron.
For tarpon in the sea, maybe they do. Who knows? Send me a text if it's you, because I have questions.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would like to meet you.
So what do you normally get in your drips that you like get the most bang for your buck outside of just NAD?
No, for sure. So B vitamins are a go-to. I have several different mutations on my methylation pathway. For those of you out there wondering what that is, you should get our methyl detox test. It tells you a lot about what nutrients your body needs. But I have a double COMT mutation, which essentially means I have a hard time processing certain things. B vitamins are one of those. So B vitamins are a go-to for me. Zinc is a go-to. I like to get as much zinc as I can in my drips. A, it's obviously beneficial for my immune system. But B, it's one of those ingredients that's very supportive when you're getting TRT and supporting testosterone production in the body. So zinc is a really good one. I really like taurine. Taurine's an amino acid. It's great for energy. So honestly, that one you feel like I typically feel like in about an hour, I'm like, woo, ready to go. Yeah. So that one's really good. And then it's more of like your standard ones, depending on how I'm feeling. If I need more immunity, I'll get some vitamin C. I will get glutathione as well. Glutathione's one that I get pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. There's a few more too. It just depends. We have a huge menu of ingredients. So one of the best parts about going to Restore is that it is all fully customizable. So the nurse will sit with you and kind of help. If you want the nurse to sit with you and explain every single ingredient on our list, they will sit with you and explain every ingredient and how it might or might not benefit you. Mm-hmm. And then they'll help you pick out your drip from there. But it's you can get something a little bit different every time, or you find the drip that is your drip and you get that every time.
And you said you got the methyl detox test.
Yes.
COMT mutation is also a precursor to
Alzheimer's, which every male on my dad's side of the family has died with Alzheimer's. So that checks out for me.
You're like, the math's mathing.
The math is mathing, exactly.
But NAD, the one of the reasons you do it is for that.
Yes, 100%. So NAD, ultimately, I don't want to dive too deep down the Alzheimer's wormhole, but a lot of these diseases are diseases that occur at a cellular level. So the longer you can maintain your mitochondrial health, which is what the NAD is really kind of helping you maintain, it's going to help you turn over those damaged mitochondria faster and rebuild new ones faster. The longer you can do that, the longer you can kind of push off your genetic predispositions for something like Alzheimer's.
And that's the nice thing about the methyl detox. Like, I just got mine done yesterday, and everyone's very confident that I have this COMT thing.
We're pretty confident.
They're all very confident. I'll make a video afterward. With
the medical professionals are very confident. I'm confident because the medical professionals are confident, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, but I'm very interested to see. Do you know if there's any other diseases that can like tell you? Is it just Alzheimer's? Like, what other ones can they?
No, so really, I mean, ultimately, the methyl detox test is really mostly about your genetic markers, and what essentially, depending, I'm not an expert on the specific mutations along that pathway, but understanding what genetic mutations you have along that pathway can really educate you a lot on why certain, if you have dry skin, like where you're like, I put on lotion like 7 times a day and I can't figure out, like, there's probably an answer for you in that test somewhere. If you constantly feel like you need to go to bed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there's probably an answer for you on that test somewhere. Honestly, the test is pretty cost efficient. I don't know. It's like right around $200.
And it's a one-time test.
And it's a one-time test because it's genetic. So, it's not like you wake up in 20 years and your genetics are different than what they were now. So you have this one test. It's there for life. You can carry that around with you, give it to everyone you ever encounter, and be like, listen, here's my problems. Work around these.
Yep. Yeah, be like, I can't take this B12, it has to be methylated, blah, 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 blah. Which all of our B12 is methylated, by the way.
Absolutely.
Because people like to text every once in a while and be like, oh, I'm going to really get them. Do you have methylated B12? And
absolutely.
like, yes.
Yes.
Don't ask again. It's like done. So we don't have too much time left, but give us a little rundown of how you came to be with Restore.
Oh, this is a good one. So, actually, my wife started at Restore first. Her name is Haley. So she started at Restore as a part-time nurse. I was doing HVAC sales at the time. Super fun job. Would not recommend.
Nice.
So, but health and fitness and this has always been kind of my wheelhouse. It's been a hobby of mine for a long time. It's actually part of really what kind of Haley and I connected over when we first met. So she started here, and you know, our now business partners. They had opened up their first location, and they're not local to the area, and so ultimately, you know, they were looking for somebody to, you know, really operationally manage their group of studios as they expanded. So, you know, we're at 4 studios now across 3 cities. And so, you know, I joined on to kind of manage the openings of the studios and then oversee, you know, hiring and the operational processes and just, you know, make sure that things run smoothly. We have a lot of services. We've only touched on a couple of them today, but, you know, Restore has a ton of different therapies. And so, you know, managing that from an operational standpoint, making sure everyone gets paid, all that good stuff. That was really kind of a gap in the operation at the time. So that's really where I kind of stepped in and was like, listen, this is a hobby of mine. Operations is something that I'm good at. I can step in here and, you know, we can partner up from a business perspective and let's really make this thing go. And I'd like to say we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I think we have a really, really good team. Ultimately, I think like anything else, you're only as successful as the team that you have. And we have an awesome team, especially here at Brownsboro.
I hope the other studios heard that. If they watch this, which if you don't, if we know they won't watch this because they won't say something. But if they watch this, they're going to send a text and be like, "Hey, was it Brownsboro?"
I thought I was your favorite.
Like, okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Closing thoughts. What do you got for me?
If you're on the fence at all as far as what you doing something to positively impact your health, the longer you wait, the bigger that thing is going to have to be. So start today, whatever it is, even if it's not Restore. Start that thing now. Get on your health journey. Start making those choices now, even if you're 15 years old, and you will be very happy that you did in 20 years.
Just like a house. Have a strong foundation, because if not, it can be a really pretty house, but it'll fall over eventually.
Exactly.